All right, guys, so what I'm doing this week is I'm putting together a recipe called Thai chicken skewers. Very simple to do. I've got my recipes here in front, or my ingredients here in front of me. First thing I'm going to start off with is organic chicken. That's the key to the whole recipe. Organic chicken, a lot better for you. Price, well, we'll ignore that part. It's not cheap, but it is good for you. So I've got 2 packs of organic chicken. I've got some coconut milk. As I go through the process, I'm going to list all the different the amounts you need to use, the process to go through it. But right now, I'm just showing you off everything that I've got. I've got some soy sauce. I've got some red curry paste. These are all things you can find at your grocery store, nice and simple. Peanut butter. In Canada, we have Kraft peanut butter. I've got some limes. I've got some brown jasmine rice. I love jasmine rice. Brown, a little bit better for you, supposedly. And lastly, I've got, this is a bag of frozen homemade broth. When I make my rice, I prefer to use my own broth, just because I know where it came from. I know it's healthier. So anytime we have a chicken or a turkey, I always boil it down, get some really good broth out of it, make bone broth. I have a pressure cooker that I use. It takes me about 2.5 hours, but I usually get a whack of bone broth out of it. I always freeze it, and my wife loves to drink bone broth on its own. I love to use the bone broth for any time I make rice. So anything that calls for any type of broth, I prefer to use my own. So that's that. I'm going to put it all together, and away we go. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cube up my chicken because I want to marinate it. So that's the key to giving this lots of flavor, is I'm going to marinate the chicken. You can do it anywhere from half an hour to overnight. Overnight's even better. I don't have that kind of time, so I'm just going to do a shorter amount of time. But cube up your chicken. I'm using 4 chicken breasts, and I'm going to cube them up and stick them in my marinade. With this recipe, you can also use boneless chicken thighs instead of chicken breasts. Chicken breasts do tend to get a little drier with certain recipes, but I find with this one, because there's so much liquid in it, they don't really dry out. They've got a nice flavor. But if you prefer, you can use chicken thighs, boneless chicken thighs. And when I do my marinades, you can stick them in a bowl. But I like to stick mine, because I'm short for time, I like to stick mine in a plastic bag. Stick it in a plastic bag and then add the marinade to it and then seal it up. Draw all the air out. So once there's a bit of a vacuum inside the bag, it actually makes the marinade infuse into the chicken a little bit quicker. So that's one of the things that I do when I'm shorter on time. If I was thinking, I would have done this yesterday, and I would have had my chicken ready to go for tonight. But as I say, hindsight is 20/20. We don't always think ahead of time. All right, so for my marinade, I'm going to put together my chicken, which I've already got in a bag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a full can of organic coconut milk. So it's got the cream, it's got the water underneath. And there you go, add that right in. I'll be adding the amounts once I edit the video, of course. Break that up a little bit. Once I get everything in there, I'm going to give it a good whisk to break it all down. I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of Thai chili paste. So I'm not a big believer in exact measurements. I like to cook by taste. They're a lot more flavorful when you go by taste. You can add things, subtract things. Also going to add in about a teaspoon of salt. Salt is the key to everything. Gives it lots of flavor. And then lastly, I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of sugar. It's almost a teaspoon. There we go, just like that. There's a teaspoon of sugar. So that's going to be your marinade. What I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk this, and then I'm going to dump it right into my bag of chicken, and I'm going to let that sit. Like I said, overnight would be ideal, but I've only got about half an hour, so I'm going to bag that up and let it sit for half an hour. All right, so I got my marinade together, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump that right into the bag, and I'm going to let this sit for about half an hour. What I want to do is try to get as much of the air out of this as I can. I'm trying to create a little bit of a vacuum. So I'm going to seal up most of the bag. I'm just going to press down on it until the liquid's almost popping out, and then seal it up. And that creates a little bit of a mini vacuum. I'm just going to lay that flat and let that marinate for a while. So marinate for half an hour. Ideally, 24 hours overnight would be perfect, but we work with what we got. All right, so while I'm letting the chicken marinate, I'm going to get the rice going because the rice will take 35 to 45 minutes. So I'm using proper long grain rice. This is a jasmine rice, I believe, that I grabbed. It's a brown jasmine. It's organic, just because I like to use organic stuff when I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the broth and my rice to a pot, get that on a low boil. So I do a 2-to-1 ratio. So I've got almost 2 cups of broth, so I'm doing just a smidge under a cup of rice because it's going to double in size. So in goes my cup of rice. And I'm going to add in my broth. So I'm going to add that in as well. Still a couple of chunks of frozen in there, but that'll thaw out once I get it boiling. And we're going to pop that right on the stove. I'm going to keep it covered once it gets to a boil, and it'll keep the moisture inside the pot. For our Thai dipping sauce, we're going to add in some red curry, some Thai red curry paste. We're going to add in some peanut butter, a couple of tablespoons of peanut butter. We're going to add in some soy sauce. I've got the exact numbers in the video. We're adding in some lime juice for that tang. We're going to add in, looks like 2 limes that we're adding into it. We're going to add in some salt. Everything needs salt. Salt equals flavor. We're going to add in some water just to thin it out a little bit so it's not too thick. And then we're going to add in a little bit of sugar just for a little bit of sweetness. And then we're going to whisk all that together. It works better if you have a whisk, not a fork. All right, so the last thing I want to do is I'm going to skewer my chicken. So I've got some bamboo skewers here. These are really big ones. So what I'm doing is I'm just cracking them in half. And it's giving me twice the amount of skewers. Now, one of the keys when you do this is obviously don't put your meat on this end. Put it on this end or you're going to get some little bits of wood in your chicken. You don't want that. So I'm just going to put, I'm going to try to fill up each skewer 3/4 of the way. We'll see how many skewers I end up making. And I plan on pan frying these. One of the things with cooking with a skewer, especially with wooden skewers, is if you cook them on the barbecue or in the oven, you want to soak your skewers for a couple of hours so that way they don't dry out and catch fire. So there we go. I've got 1 skewer done. And I'm just going to let that sit over here, and I'm just going to keep going until I've used up all my chicken. All right, guys, and once again, through the magic of editing, all the chicken is now on skewers. So the next thing I have to do is cook it in a pan. So I'm going to cook it in a pan over medium heat. I'm going to use a little bit of avocado oil just to try to be a little more health conscious, and a little bit of sesame oil just to try to stick with the authentic flavors as well. All right, guys, so as you can see, my rice is pretty much done. Just give it a stir there. Yeah, there's no liquid left in the bottom, so it is definitely done. What I do like to do is I like to finish it with a little bit of butter, so I'll plop maybe a tablespoon of butter in there just to give it a little bit of a velvety flavor. I'm trying to stay a little on the healthier side, so I'm going to avoid the butter tonight. But I'm going to turn the heat off, just let it sit while I cook the skewers. All right, so for my chicken skewers, I'm going to do a little bit of olive oil, or sorry, avocado oil, just to try to stay a bit on the healthier side. I'll do about a tablespoon of that, and I'm going to add in just a little bit of sesame oil, just to try to keep the flavors authentic. So I'm going to let that heat up, and then I will cook my skewers. All right, so my chicken, these skewers are quite thin, so they shouldn't take long at all. So I'm going to plop a few in here. I don't want to totally crowd them out, so I'm probably going to do these in 2 batches. Got this over medium heat. I want to get a bit of a brown going on. Brown the chicken up. A nice brown crust on that. What I'm looking for. I do have tongs, but they're in the dishwasher, so I'm using a fork. And what I'm going to do as I cook these is that marinade that I made, the dipping sauce, I'm going to drizzle that over the chicken while it's cooked just to add some flavor into it. So get a nice little crust going on both sides. This chicken's almost done. Just going to baste them a little bit longer. A little baste on the other side. Let it cook in that sauce for a few more minutes. We'll do the second batch, and then that's it. All right, guys, so there is your Thai chicken skewers over brown jasmine rice. My rice collapsed in on itself, but it did look pretty before that happened. So here's the final product. Nice and simple, nice and easy, and nice and tasty. I hope you enjoy the process. And this is very easy to make. Didn't take long at all. And I used organic everything, which is a bit pricier, but I mean, you can make this for, I'd say less than $8 a serving. If you're not going organic, you just want to go with regular rice, regular chicken, regular coconut milk, and keep the prices down. But I like organic because it's a little bit healthier. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm going to go eat. Enjoy.